Welcome to Satsang. So beautiful to be together. Why do we shout when we are angry? I heard it said really beautifully. I don't know who said it, but I love it. That the volume of our voice has nothing actually to do with the distance between our bodies and everything to do with the distance between our hearts. That when we're angry with someone, even if they're standing 3 inches in front of us, we shout at them. When we are just having a discussion, a conversation with someone, you sit at a table, you're a few feet apart, but you use kind of your normal voice. Relationship between the volume and the distance of the heart. So why we shout when we're angry? Because our hearts have become very distant, very separate. And so we use volume to try to, it's an unconscious thing, it's an automatic thing, but we use volume to try to kind of cover distance. When the hearts are very close, I know, even if you're far away, you can hear me. Because our hearts are one. But when our hearts are far apart, even your body is here, I feel like I need to shout because there's this great chasm between us. And if I don't shout, you won't understand and it won't penetrate. And so we shout. We shout also when we lose control. No one who's in control, who's present, who's centered, who's conscious, shouts. It's a horrible waste of physical energy. My God, it takes a lot out of you to shout. I know sometimes in big functions and events, even sometimes in our arti, the mic isn't working very well. And so you end up having to really talk very, very loud because the microphone power is not so good. Now, in that case, you're not shouting because you're unconscious. You're shouting because you know if I don't, the people 200 rows back aren't going to hear me. But it takes so much energy. In a 5-minute speech, someplace where the sound system is not good, it drains your energy having to shout. So we do it in life only when we're not conscious of it, when we're angry. We've lost ourselves. And so I think on some unconscious level, there's this sense that if we just get loud enough, we can somehow gain control back of the situation. And yet, of course, if you've ever been on the receiving end of someone shouting, what you know is that when somebody shouts at you, the last thing you feel for them is respect. We shout because we want somebody to listen, to understand, to respect us. But as you're on the receiving end of it, usually all we can think is, oh my God, when is he going to shut up? Or when is she going to shut up? Or just stay quiet so that person gets calm again, you're certainly not thinking, oh, wow, I really respect them so much because they're shouting. It's the opposite. We lose respect. We think that person has no control over themselves. You know, in Hindi we say they've come out of their dhoti, like they're out of their clothes. As in literally they have become undressed in their fit of the moment. So it's not a very respectful way of describing somebody yelling and screaming. So if you ever find yourself metaphorically coming out of your clothes with your volume and your voice, just take a moment. Just take a moment and stop. Even if it's mid-sentence. Sometimes we think, oh my God, I can't stop now. Then they'll really lose respect for me. But actually the truth is, if you think about someone who's going on, screaming and yelling, and then suddenly in the middle of it they stop, and they say, you know what? I'll be back in a few minutes. I'm going to go take a walk. You actually would have more respect for that person than for someone who just screams and yells until they've expended all of their energy, and then finally they slam a door and walk out. The one who actually catches themselves, regains control of themselves, regrounds themselves, anchors themselves, and makes a conscious decision in favor of consciousness by deciding to go take a walk or sit and meditate for a little while or just drink a glass of cool water. That's actually someone to emulate. That's someone to feel like, that's a very respectful thing to do. Like they were really angry, but look how they handled that. I would be much more inclined to actually respect that person. So if you are someone inclined to scream and yell when you're angry, just try to bring as much consciousness into your life as you can, every minute, every moment. And you'll find that that permeates you even when you are in moments of anger. And you'll catch yourself screaming. Sometimes you'll catch it only after it happens, but as your power of awareness grows, you'll catch yourself in the middle of it. And just stop right there. The minute you're aware, just stop. And then slowly, as your power of awareness grows, you'll be able to catch yourself before it even starts. And that's the goal. That's the goal of bringing our awareness and mindfulness into our lives. So connect with that to which you are very close, like God, like a loved one, to whom you can speak silently or in a whisper. And just start talking to that person instead of the one you're angry at, until your volume comes down. And then regroup. Regain consciousness. Come back to yourself. It'll do wonders for your relationships and also, of course, for your own spiritual growth. Other questions that anyone here has? Yes.
I need to ask that if we are angry with someone.
Just 1 second, he'll fix the...
Like if we are angry with someone and we can't forget that thing, that problem with that person, what should we do? We remember that thing for a lifelong.
The the actual remembering isn't the core problem. The core problem is the emotional connection to the memory. A lot of us remember things that have happened. You don't want to forget lessons of your life, because things that happen give us lessons. We learn. Somebody cheats us, harms us, betrays us. Inevitably, there's a lesson there for us somewhere. So you don't want to just forget that the entire thing happened so that you miss the opportunity to learn a lesson. But instead, what you want to do is forgive them. You want to let go of the emotional component of what happened, the emotional reaction. Because that's what steals your present and your future. If every time I think about that person, my palms get sweaty and my face gets red and my heart beats really fast because I'm so angry. And every time I think about what they did, my stomach gets tied up in knots because I'm so angry and my eyes fill with tears. Well, what it means is I'm literally reliving it every single time I think about it, because I haven't let go. So what you need to do is forgive and let go. It's not so much forget. Removing memories is a very difficult thing. If it's there, it's there. But you unhook the emotional component from it. The way to do that, the way to unhook that, is through forgiveness. Through whatever they did. Realizing that they did it simply because, भैया ये जो काम चल रहा है इसको बंद करा दीजिएगा बाहर. Whatever they did it because their toolbox didn't have whatever tool that moment required. We're all moving through the world with our own toolboxes. We face a situation, we look in our toolbox, do I have a tool that this situation needs? Let's say there's a situation that requires patience and understanding and compassion, wisdom. But we don't have that in our toolbox. Because in our family when we were growing up, or in our education, or in our community, or our society, or our culture, it didn't give us those things. Maybe we just never were taught to be patient. Maybe we were raised without patience, so we just never developed that tool. Maybe we were raised without compassion, without understanding, without the skills of moving through the world in a loving way. Because maybe we were not raised with that love. And so when we face situations in our life that require that skill, we don't have it. And so we end up hurting people. Not because we woke up in the morning and said, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to ruin her day and I'm going to ruin her life. I'm going to do something so bad that not only does it ruin her day, but so that she remembers it every single day of her life and it ruins her life. Nobody plans like that. What happens is there are circumstances, situations that arise in our life And we don't have the tool to address them. We don't have patience. We don't have love. We don't have understanding. Instead, we have impatience, or we have violence. We have negativity, we have judgment, we have criticism. And so we use that simply because it's all we have. And that's what happens when someone hurts us. It's not because they decided to. It's because they just didn't have the skill that the moment required. So we forgive them. And we also forgive because what you know is that holding on harms you. When you can't let go, that person's act has ruined not only your day but your life. And so they may have lied to you, cheated you, betrayed you, harmed you in some way. But now you have consciously, willingly handed them your entire life. It's like someone hurt me once, therefore I now am going to hand them my joy, my peace, and every minute of the rest of my life. Why would you do that? They already stole what they were going to steal. They already harmed what they were going to harm. Why would you now willingly give them the ability to do more harm? By handing them every bit of your joy, every bit of your peace. Why do that? Forgiveness is us saying, that which someone did was wrong, but I deserve freedom. I deserve joy. I deserve peace. It is my birthright, regardless of what someone did to me. And so you let go. And you're here on the banks of Mother Ganga. It's the very most perfect place in the world to do that. So just go and stand at Ma Ganga's waters and let go. So that even if you remember the act, it doesn't fill you with that pain. And then it stops hijacking your life. Then you have the ability, once you've really let it go and healed the wound, then if the memory arises, you can just think about something else. Chant a mantra instead. Think about someone you love. Think about someone who has been generous and caring and compassionate and tender and loving with you, rather than thinking about the person who's harmed you. But you need to do the work of really letting it go first, because otherwise it becomes just repression. And then you're just pushing it down and it festers inside you. So first you've got to really heal it by letting it go and forgive them. And then if the thought arises, just think of something else. Beautiful. Yes.
Madam, nowadays, this problem of angerness is becoming more and more common and prevalent. I have seen children, they speak less. And whenever they speak, they will shout and they scream. How to handle such children? It is becoming every home problem.
These children who shout and scream, where do they learn it? Where do they learn it? They learn it from us. They learn it from us. Children, we say, do what I say, not what I do. But they don't. They do exactly what we do. They act exactly the way that we teach them to act. If you raise a child with no shouting, no screaming, not just in the home, it's not just a matter of what they're learning in the home, they're learning it on TV, they're learning it in the videos that they're watching online, they're learning it in the movies. So as we pay a lot of attention and are very careful about how we are in front of children, I mean, parents know if you want to raise your children with sanskaras, with values and ethics, there's things you're not going to say in front of your kids. There's things you're not going to do in front of your kids. There's values that you want to make sure you give them, not just in your words, but in your actions, in your example. Because children pick up our actions and example much stronger than they pick up our words. So we know that. We know how to act, what to say, what to do. Usually. But a lot of times we're not aware. A lot of times we're unconscious about it. They hear us fighting, they hear us yelling, maybe at each other, maybe on the phone. Maybe at home they get just love and peace, but they spend a lot of time on the internet, and somehow they find themselves watching videos that YouTube just keeps recommending to them, one right after the other, based on these algorithms that are created just to get them to keep watching, not to give them values, not to give them sanskaras, but actually just to keep them watching. There's a lot that we know about the way that the internet works, what the aims and objectives of the different people who build different apps is about. I'm not going to go into all of it here, taking names of different companies and countries and whatnot, but we know that people who are building apps, building these programs, are doing it for their own benefit, not our benefit. Which means that if you're allowing your children to spend hours of time online every day, on YouTube, on Facebook, on TikTok, wherever they are, you're literally sending them into someone else's home, totally unsupervised. I mean, think about it for a minute. If your kid came home and started telling you about their friends' parents who drank alcohol, took drugs, were having a whole bunch of crazy sex, like wide in the open, all over the house, with each other, with everyone, with every sort of object. They were using all kinds of horrible words. They were screaming and yelling all the time, being violent, hitting people, killing people. Would you ever let your kid go back to that person's house? I mean, ever again would you let them go back to that person's house? You'd say, never again over my dead body. I don't care if I have to ground you, lock you in your room, but you are never going back to someone's house in which that is the environment. Because you would understand that's dangerous for them. That's the last type of influence that you would want your children to have. And you certainly would never say, oh yeah, 4 or 5 hours a day, no problem. Every day after school, no problem. Yeah, go over, hang out over there. We'd never let them. But when we let our children spend 4, 5, 6, 7 hours a day online, on TV, whatever it may be, it's essentially the same thing as letting them go to someone's house where they are not only unsupervised, but where the parents and the elder siblings at that house are consciously, purposely feeding our children everything that is harmful for their brain, for their body, for their minds, for their hearts. We'd never let our kids go somewhere where they were going to be poisoned. And it's what we do, and we let them just roam like that online. So if you find that your children are acting in ways that are not what you've raised them with, the first thing, of course, is to really be honest with yourself and say, do we shout? Are we shouting around the house? Are they hearing me? Are they hearing their mother? Are they learning it from us? Are they learning it from a cousin who they spend a lot of time with? An uncle, an aunt they spend a lot of time with? Are they learning it from a teacher in school who shouts all day long? And if you've ruled all of that out, if that's not where it's coming from, then you need to look really, really carefully at what are they watching on the TV, on the internet, and exert just as much control over who and where they are spending time virtually, in the exact same way that you would exert that type of control over where they go and what they do physically. We think that just because it's on the phone or a computer, somehow it's harmless. But it's just as dangerous as them being there physically in person. So get more involved in what those influences are in their lives. And lastly, what I would say is make sure that you never reward that type of behavior. If children learn that the louder I get, the more likely I am to get what I want, they'll keep doing it. A lot of times as parents, we feel very embarrassed, especially if we're in public. You know, say we're in a supermarket or a shopping mall, and the child says, "Oh, I want that." And we say no. And then the kids start screaming and throwing a big temper tantrum in the middle of the shopping mall. Well, shut them up, we feel embarrassed. We want the kid to just stop screaming so that people stop looking at us. And the easiest way a lot of times to do that is to just say, fine, I'll buy it for you. Just for God's sakes, be quiet. And the problem with that is you've just given that child the key to get what they want, not just from you, but in their entire lives. Now this child learns, just get loud enough and everyone's going to give you what you want. If you haven't yet gotten it, it just means you're not yet loud enough. And they will keep going and keep going and keep going because we have taught them, if you create a big enough scene, embarrass me enough, I'll give you what you want. And so from the very beginning, the rule in the house needs to be, if you throw a temper tantrum, you can be sure the answer is no. If you yell, you can be sure the answer is no. If you become calm and you are polite, maybe I'll rethink it. Maybe I would be open to saying yes. But only if you are calm, polite, peaceful. Raise your voice, throw a tantrum. I don't care how small the thing is. I don't care if you just asked me to use my pen. Scream and yell, throw a tantrum, the answer is no. Jitni bhi choti si cheez ho. They need to learn from a very, very young age. You get nothing through screaming and yelling. You get everything from being calm and peaceful. Great. Yeah.
Thanks for the opportunity, ma'am. My question is on another topic. I need to ask what is the difference between karma and destiny? And if everything is written, it's like पत्ता भी उसकी मर्जी के बगैर नहीं हिलता. Then how it comes to my karma?
This is the evergreen question. Karma and destiny. If everything is written, where's my control? Everything is written up to this moment. You were destined to be here. That is why you are here. You cannot rewind history and be sitting in Paris at this moment. Your destiny has brought you right here, right now. But where you go from here is your free will. Right now, you are writing your destiny for the future. And yes, of course, some of it is impacted by what you've done in the past. But a lot of it is being impacted by what you do right now. I pick up this glass of water. Drink it, don't drink it. Drink it, don't drink it. Now, my destiny wrote that I was going to be here. And that I was going to be here in such a way that someone would be lovely enough to leave a glass of water there for me. And that I'd be here with all of you. But in this very moment, I've picked up this glass of water. I have absolute free will. We could literally, I could make a decision that what I'm going to do is based on a vote here. Because when you say free will, sometimes people say, well, the way your brain is, it's not really free, But I could even say, I will drink it or not based on a vote of all of you. Free will. It's not yet written. Am I going to drink this or not drink it? Am I going to dump it on my head and have a shower here? Am I going to pour it on the grass? Not yet written. But that action is going to determine from the moment from here. So for example, if I take a little water and I pour it on my sari, now I'm wet. Okay? 2 moments ago, I had free will of what to do. I engaged in the action of pouring this water onto my sari. I wrote at that time my destiny, which now I'm facing, which is I'm sitting here wet. Okay? There are threads of this moment that are due to the past. That's what has us all here in this moment. It's what has me sitting here. It's what has you sitting there. It's what has this beautiful garden here as it is. And we've got people who have put lights and a camera and a sound system. And we're here through a lot of intersecting karmic threads of a lot of different people into a beautiful tapestry that we call the present moment, that we call right here, right now. But each of us sitting in the right here, right now, has total free will of what we're going to do in the next moment, and the next moment, and the next moment. I am wet because I poured water on myself. But what started that? Your question. If you had not been sitting here and raised your hand and asked your question, it's very unlikely I would have decided to pour water on myself and make myself wet. Right? So, is my destiny to be wet? From the moment that I made the choice to pour the water on it, it became yes. But you can see this very beautiful way that all of our karmic threads are interwoven together. Your tomorrow, your next week, your next month, your next year, your next life is being written by you right now in every moment. Again, some of it is from the past. I've now gone 3 minutes approximately without pouring water on myself, and yet I'm still wet. The repercussions of a karma that I did a good 3-4 minutes ago is still with me. In the same way, the repercussions of karma that you did hours ago, months ago, years ago, lifetimes ago, some of it is still with you and is still impacting you in different ways. And you bring your full free will to this moment, and your actions in this moment intersect with the threads of the karma from the past and create the beautiful tapestry that is the next moment, and then the next moment, and then the next moment. And each moment gives you an opportunity for more threads as you are conscious and aware and choose your actions. Every action is a new thread, adding to the tapestry. Each moment, a new thread. Some of the threads of the past now shrivel up and we leave them behind. And so the tapestry keeps getting rewoven as moments go by. Some threads are very long and they stay with the tapestry for a long time. Some are just there for one tiny bit of it. But each moment is weaving newer threads into the tapestry. So you get to create. What is the tapestry of your life going to look like? Tomorrow, next week, next year. And that's your free will. And the reason that I can be so absolutely positive that we have free will is that every single spiritual tradition in the world, every one of them, and within our Sanatan Dharma, every single lineage, every single parampara, every single sage, saint, rishi, incarnation of the divine scripture gives us things to do. Meditate, pray, serve, tell the truth, be generous, be compassionate. We're given all of these things to do in order to change the weave of the tapestry of our lives. If there were no way to do that, it wouldn't make sense that every single enlightened being, every sage, every saint, every rishi, every mystic, every yogi of every tradition would not be telling us, meditate, pray, serve, practice yoga, go within, refine the senses. They wouldn't be telling us this over and over again if there were no point. If they had not personally discovered the power And we know it as well. We know it from science. We know, for example, that meditation changes your brain. Well, our brain is what gives us our thoughts. Our thoughts are what determine our actions. If meditation changes our brain, it is changing our destiny. So yeah, you've got a lot of free will. Use it. Use it very wisely. Yes, just behind you.
Hello, good evening. My question is, how do we forgive ourselves?
How do we forgive ourselves? Really the same way we forgive others. In two parts. Number one, recognizing that we didn't wake up in the morning and say, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to ruin somebody's day in life. I'm going to harm someone. You didn't wake up in the morning deciding that. Situations, circumstances arose in your life. Moments arose in your life. And your toolkit didn't have what the moment required. You didn't have the skill. You didn't have the patience. You didn't have the compassion. You didn't have the awareness to respond to that moment with the love, the tenderness, the understanding, the care, the generosity that it needed. You responded with what your toolkit had in it. And in that unskillful addressing of a situation, something went awry. Someone got hurt, something happened. Something went awry. But you didn't plan it like that. And so really recognize that, because a lot of times we say things like, I am a horrible person. Guilt says to us not, I made a mistake, but I am a mistake. And that's where it's so important to realize, I am not. The fullness of my being is not this action I did. That yes, granted, was unskillful, was not what the moment needed, was not conscious. But it was a moment. Maybe a short moment, maybe an extended long moment. But it was a moment of who I am, not the fullness of who I am. And it was something that happened through me, due to me not having the skill set to respond in a different way. But it isn't who I am, any more than someone treating me with impatience or violence or anger or ego. It's not who they are. It's what happened through them because they didn't have the skill set in that moment to respond more consciously, more patiently, more lovingly, more tenderly. And so first you really work with the thought patterns that say, I am wrong, I am bad. How many other things in your life have you done? Do you do every day that are much more skillful, much more compassionate, much more loving, much more patient than this thing that you are holding in your heart? So really let yourself question and challenge and eventually overcome that incorrect belief about yourself. And then, again, the same thing we do when others hurt us, which is we say, regardless of what I did, I deserve to be free. I deserve joy. I deserve peace. Whatever I did, if I can make amends in person in some way, that's the very best thing to do. Figure out a way to literally make amends. Can you somehow fix in some way whatever you did? At least apologize, at least try to make amends in whatever way you can. Give that person the opportunity to tell you what they need from you. And if you can't do that, speak to them internally, speak to them in your heart. And then let it go. Whether they forgive you or not, that's going to be their decision, their choice. But whether they forgive you or not, if they forgive you, it does not absolve you of what you did. And if they did not forgive you, it does not mean that you don't deserve freedom. Let it go. Realize that you as a divine being, yes, a confused, fallible, ignorant, human incarnation, have done something that wasn't skillful. But you, as soul, as spirit, as essence, deserve freedom. You, as human being, deserve love, peace, the experience of that freedom, regardless of the ignorance that we are mired in. So forgive yourself. And again, same thing I told her, stand on the banks of Ganga and just give it. Just give that guilt. Give the ignorance that led you to do that. Give it to her. And forgive yourself. Beautiful. Have a beautiful rest of your evening. If you didn't have a chance to ask your question, I know there were a lot more hands. You can either bring it in tomorrow and we'll take it tomorrow, or you can, if you're not going to be here tomorrow, you can get it to our beautiful Seva team, to Sevanandaji, to Preeti, to Krishna Priya, and they'll write it down and they'll get it for me on the sheet that we always start with. And if when you're gone, then you remember your question, no problem. Send it in by email, put it as a comment on social media where this streams, any way to reach us. There's a whole bunch of ways, and feel free to send them in then as well. And so much love to all of you.